Picture an eagle the size of a small plane, with talons designed to puncture skulls, elephants that shrank to the size of pigs, humans with brains smaller than chimpanzees, crafting stone tools in darkness. These aren't fantasy creatures, they existed, and their stories reveal something profound about how evolution works when you change the rules. Evolution follows patterns. Big predators need lots of prey. Small animals hide from danger. Plants compete for sunlight. These rules shape every ecosystem on Earth's major continents. But when land becomes isolated, when continents split, or sea levels trap populations on islands, those rules stop working the way they should. The phenomenon has a name: Foster's Rule, after the mammalogist J. Bristol Foster, who first documented it systematically. Large animals get smaller on islands. Small animals get larger. It sounds simple until you realize how extreme these changes become. On Sicily and Malta, elephants that started at 4 tons ended up weighing 250 kilograms, smaller than a pig. These were actual elephants whose ancestors walked across land bridges during ice ages, got trapped when sea levels rose, and then shrank by 92% of their original size. Here's where it gets stranger. The shrinking happens fast, absurdly fast by evolutionary standards. Body mass decreases during dwarfism occur 30 times faster than body mass increases during gigantism. A population of elephants can shrink to a quarter of their size in just 350 generations. For elephants, that's about 8,000 years. In geological time, that's nothing. The mechanism behind this rapid change involves pedomorphism, adults retaining juvenile characteristics. Baby elephants have different proportions than adults. Bigger heads relative to their bodies, shorter legs, smaller tusks. When natural selection favors smaller size, it doesn't redesign the elephant from scratch. It stops development earlier, creating adults that look like overgrown babies of their ancestors. Why does isolation trigger these changes? Removed predators and prey animals don't need size for defense. Limited food means smaller bodies need fewer calories. Smaller islands support smaller animals. But understanding the mechanism doesn't make the results less extraordinary. Zealandia separated from Antarctica 83 million years ago, carrying no land mammals except bats. Today, 94% of this continent sits underwater, but New Zealand and New Caledonia mark its highest points. For 80 million years, this isolated landmass conducted an experiment. What happens when birds get an entire continent to themselves? They become the mammals. 9 species of moa evolved to fill herbivore niches. Forget the image of a big ostrich. The South Island giant moa stood 2 meters at the back, but could stretch its neck to 3.6 meters to browse trees. These birds had no wings. Not small wings, not vestigial wings, no wings at all. No other bird lineage has completely lost all trace of wing bones. The moae achieved something unique in avian evolution. But moa were prey animals, and every ecosystem needs predators. Enter Haast's eagle, Harpagornis murray, the most powerful aerial predator that ever lived. Weighing up to 15 kilograms with a 3-meter wingspan, it attacked moa using a killing strategy unlike any modern eagle. The physics are brutal. Haast's eagle would strike at speeds approaching 80 kilometers per hour, driving talons through moa skulls and pelvises, bones thick enough to stop most predators. After killing prey 30 times its weight, the eagle couldn't carry it. DNA analysis revealed something that challenges our assumptions about evolution's pace. Haast's eagle evolved from Australia's little eagle, a bird weighing less than 1 kilogram in under 2 million years. That's a 15-fold size increase in an evolutionary eye blink. The St. Bathans fossil site in central Otago opens a window into Zealandia's Miocene period, 19 to 16 million years ago. Scientists found Heracles inexpectatus, a parrot standing 1 meter tall and weighing 7 kilograms. For context, that's double the weight of the heaviest living parrot. But Heracles wasn't alone in its strangeness. The same deposits yielded Vulcanops, a burrowing bat 3 times larger than its modern relatives. Without mammals, other creatures filled their roles. Giant weta, insects weighing up to 100 grams, occupied the ecological niche of rodents. The weta lineage thrived for millions of years, only declining when actual rodents arrived with humans. The tuatara adds another layer to Zealandia's story. This reptile looks like a lizard, but isn't one. Tuatara represent the sole survivors of Rhynchocephalia, an order that split from snakes and lizards 250 million years ago. Here's perspective. You're more closely related to a kangaroo than a tuatara is to a gecko. While their relatives went extinct everywhere else during the age of dinosaurs, Tuatara survived on Zealandia, unchanged for tens of millions of years. In 2003, archaeologists excavating Liang Bua Cave on Flores, Indonesia, found a skeleton that shouldn't exist. An adult human, female, standing 1.1 meters tall, shorter than a 4-year-old child. But the proportions were wrong for a child. The teeth showed wear patterns of someone who lived for decades. The skull housed a brain of 400 cubic centimeters, smaller than a chimpanzee's. They named it Homo floresiensis. The media called it the Hobbit. Initial skepticism was fierce. Some scientists insisted the skeleton represented a diseased modern human, microcephaly, Laron syndrome, cretinism. But then archaeologists found more individuals. 15 partial skeletons, all showing the same tiny stature, the same small brains, the same unusual mix of primitive and advanced features. The dating shocked everyone. The youngest Homo floresiensis bones date to 50,000 years ago. The oldest? 100,000 years. Stone tools associated with them stretch back 190,000 years. At Matamenga, 70 kilometers away, scientists found hominin fossils from 700,000 years ago, and these were even smaller than the Liang Bua specimens. This timeline creates a paradox. Homo floresiensis lived on Flores for at least 600,000 years. During that time, Homo sapiens evolved in Africa, developed language, created art, and spread across the globe. While we were becoming us, Homo floresiensis remained static on their island, tiny-bodied and tiny-brained, making the same stone tools generation after generation. The tools are the real mystery. Despite brains 1/3 the size of ours, Homo floresiensis made sophisticated implements. They hunted dwarf elephants, specifically juvenile Stegodon florensis insularis. Archaeologists found butchered Stegodon bones with cut marks from stone tools. The positioning of these marks shows systematic processing. These tiny humans knew exactly how to dismantle an elephant. Two competing theories attempt to explain Homo floresiensis's origins, and neither is comfortable. The first suggests they descended from Homo erectus, the tall, large-brained hominin that colonized Asia 1.8 million years ago. Java, just 500 kilometers from Flores, had Homo erectus populations. If some reached Flores and underwent island dwarfism, you'd get Homo floresiensis. But the degree of shrinkage required, from 1.8 meters to 1.1 meters. The second theory is more radical. Maybe Homo floresiensis descended from something more primitive, Australopithecus or early Homo habilis, that left Africa in a migration we haven't detected. This explains the primitive features better, but requires rewriting human evolutionary history. It means small-brained hominins were spreading across the world far earlier than we thought. The cave itself deepens the mystery. Liang Bua isn't easy to navigate today with modern equipment. The chambers where Homo floresiensis bones accumulated require crawling through tight passages in complete darkness. Yet no tools, no hearths, no signs of habitation appear with the bones. How did they get there? Some researchers suggest deliberate burial, that Homo floresiensis carried their dead into the cave's depths. If true, this would be the oldest known mortuary practice in the hominin lineage. During ice ages, when sea levels dropped 120 meters, Australia, New Guinea, and Tasmania fused into a single landmass, Sahul. This supercontinent, isolated for 30 million years, became evolution's laboratory for pouched mammals. While placental mammals dominated other continents, marsupials ruled Sahul, evolving forms that converged on similar ecological roles through entirely different pathways. Diprotodon optatum weighed 2.8 tons, the largest marsupial that ever lived. Picture a wombat scaled up to rhinoceros size, but maintaining wombat proportions. Those proportions mattered. Diprotodon's legs splayed sideways from its body, giving it a sprawling gait unlike any large mammal today. Its skull, nearly a meter long, housed continuously growing teeth adapted for grinding tough vegetation. The carnivores were equally impressive. Thylacoleo carnifex, the marsupial lion, had the strongest bite force, pound for pound, of any mammalian predator. Ever. Its teeth weren't like other carnivores. Instead of multiple cutting teeth, Thylacoleo had massive blade-like premolars that worked like bolt cutters. Its thumb bore a semi-opposable claw larger than a cassowary's, likely used to grapple prey. Its limbs were wrong for running. Instead, this 160-kilogram marsupial was built for climbing and ambush. Some scientists propose it dropped from trees onto prey, a 350-pound leopard with bolt-cutter teeth. Procoptodon goliah, the giant short-faced kangaroo, stood 2 meters tall and weighed 230 kilograms. Unlike modern kangaroos, it had forward-facing eyes for depth perception, arms capable of reaching overhead, and strangest of all, a single large toe on each foot instead of multiple digits. The reptilian predators matched the mammals in scale. Varanus priscus, often called Megalania, was the largest terrestrial lizard known to science. Size estimates vary because complete skeletons don't exist, but even conservative estimates place it at 5.5 meters long and 500 kilograms. For perspective, that's a Komodo dragon scaled up by a factor of 6. Then, around 42,000 years ago, they all disappeared. The timing haunts paleontologists. In geological terms, 42,000 years is yesterday. These animals survived ice ages that started 2.6 million years ago. They survived volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, dramatic climate shifts. Then, within a few thousand years, every land animal over 44 kilograms went extinct. Two explanations compete, and the evidence is maddeningly ambiguous. Climate data from Antarctic ice cores shows the period around 42,000 years ago wasn't particularly extreme. If anything, conditions were stable compared to earlier glacial cycles. But zoom out further, and a pattern emerges. Starting 450,000 years ago, glacial cycles became more extreme. Cold periods got colder. Dry periods got drier. Sahul's vast interior became increasingly arid. Lakes dried up. Forests retreated. Maybe the megafauna were already stressed when the final blow came. That final blow might have been human arrival. Humans reached Sahul between 50,000 and 45,000 years ago. The timing is suspicious. Megafauna extinctions follow shortly after. But here's the problem. Archaeologists have found almost no direct evidence of humans hunting megafauna. No kill sites, no butchered diprotodon bones, no spear points embedded in thylacola ribs. The absence of evidence has led to subtler hypotheses. Humans used fire to modify landscapes, converting forests to grassland. This habitat change alone could drive extinctions. Or perhaps human presence disrupted migration patterns, blocked access to water sources, or introduced diseases. Small impacts, multiplied across thousands of years, bringing down giants. Sundaland reveals evolution's capacity for extreme transformation. During glacial periods, Southeast Asia's islands connected into a single landmass. When seas rose, populations were trapped on islands. The elephants tell the story best. Stegodon, an elephant relative with straight tusks, colonized these islands repeatedly. Each isolation event triggered dramatic shrinking. On Sumba, Stegodon sumbaensis weighed 250 kilograms, 8% of mainland Stegodon size. That's an elephant the size of a large pig. Flores produced multiple dwarf Stegodon species across different time periods. Stegodon saundari from the early Pleistocene stood 1.2 meters tall. Its legs were proportionally shorter than mainland relatives, an adaptation to rough terrain. Later, Stegodon florensis insularis evolved from a different colonization event. This species shrank 30% from its already small ancestor in just 300,000 years. Java's Stegodon semitoensis might be the smallest, just 1.2 meters at the shoulder. For context, that's shorter than a 10-year-old child. Growth rings in their tusks confirm they were adults. They were simply tiny. Researchers calculated that insular dwarfism in elephants proceeds at rates of up to 200 Darwins, a unit measuring evolutionary change. For comparison, horse evolution from tiny Eohippus to modern Equus, spanning 50 million years, averaged about 0.1 Darwins. But size reduction isn't uniform across the body. Brains shrink slower than bodies, so dwarf elephants had proportionally larger brains than their ancestors. Teeth also resist shrinking. Dwarf elephants often had teeth too large for their skulls, causing dental problems that show up in fossils. The shrinking affected behavior too. Mainland Stegodon lived in herds. Island dwarfs show different wear patterns on their teeth, suggesting changed diets. Some researchers propose they became more solitary. Islands couldn't support large herds of even tiny elephants. Then there's Homo floresiensis again, sharing Flores with these dwarf elephants. The synchronicity isn't coincidence. The same selective pressures that shrank elephants to pig size shrank humans to hobbit size. The same limited resources that drove stegodon evolution drove hominin evolution. Predator and prey, shrinking in parallel. The Kerguelen Plateau challenges our concept of lost worlds. Today, it's a handful of desolate islands in the Southern Ocean, blasted by winds and barely capable of supporting grass. But drill into the seafloor around these islands, and you find something extraordinary. Fossil wood. Not driftwood, not isolated fragments. Entire fossilized tree trunks, some over a meter in diameter. From 100 million to 20 million years ago, the Kerguelen Plateau was above sea level, a microcontinent up to 500,000 square kilometers, larger than California. Fossil pollen identifies the trees. Araucaria, the monkey puzzle tree. Podocarpus, yellowwoods. These were temperate rainforest trees forming dense canopies. The Kerguelen Plateau formed from a massive volcanic hotspot 130 million years ago. Like Iceland today, volcanism built land above sea level. But unlike Iceland, which constantly rebuilds itself through active volcanism, the Kerguelen hotspot went quiet. Without new lava, the plateau began its slow submergence. As volcanic rock cools, it contracts and sinks. The process takes millions of years, but it's unstoppable. The Kerguelen Plateau's forests had an expiration date from the moment they sprouted. What lived in those forests? We don't know. Not a single land animal fossil has been found. This isn't surprising. Volcanic islands rarely preserve fossils, and most of the plateau is now under 2 kilometers of water. But we can make educated guesses based on timing and geography. When the forest peaked 50 million years ago, the Kerguelen Plateau sat between Antarctica and India. Both continents had diverse faunas. Antarctica, still warm, supported marsupials and primitive hoofed mammals. India carried its Gondwanan cargo of dinosaurs and early mammals northward. If animals reached Kerguelen, and it's hard to imagine they didn't, they would have evolved in isolation for tens of millions of years. Some scientists proposed the Kerguelen Plateau as a stepping stone for animal migration between India and Antarctica. The idea was romantic, a temporary bridge allowing Gondwana's fauna to intermingle before the continents fully separated. Modern paleogeographic modeling killed this hypothesis. Even at maximum exposure, the Kerguelen Plateau never connected to other land masses. So Kerguelen's forests lived and died in isolation. Whatever evolved there, birds, insects, perhaps monotremes or marsupials, if they arrived early enough, vanished without a trace. An entire ecosystem, possibly with unique species found nowhere else, slipped beneath the waves. No catastrophic extinction event, no human interference. Simple geology erased 80 million years of evolution. The Miocene deposits at Cap Milan offer our only glimpse of Kerguelen's biology after the forests died. But one discovery stands out: bones from a Sirenian, a relative of dugongs and manatees. These marine mammals graze on seagrass in shallow waters. Their presence proves that even as Kerguelen sank, its shallow shelves supported complex marine ecosystems. Every lost world in this story followed its own trajectory. Zealandia gave birds an entire continent. Sahul let marsupials parallel evolve an entire mammalian fauna. Sundaland compressed elephants to pig size and humans to hobbit size. The Kerguelen Plateau grew forests for longer than mammals have dominated Earth, then sank without a trace. But patterns emerge. Isolation accelerates evolution, but makes species vulnerable. Size rules break down predictably. Ecosystems missing major groups, mammals, predators, competitors, reorganize in ways that seem impossible until you see the fossils. And when isolation ends, through land bridges, human arrival, or submergence, these evolutionary experiments end abruptly. Today's world is fragmenting. Climate change and human development are turning continuous habitats into islands, forest fragments, isolated populations. We're recreating the conditions that produced dwarf elephants and giant eagles, but at a pace that outstrips evolution's ability to respond. The next time you read about an isolated population of tigers or elephants or rhinos, remember stegodon. Remember what isolation does to large mammals. Remember how fast it happens. Evolution doesn't stop when habitats fragment. It accelerates in directions we might not expect or desire. These lost worlds aren't cautionary tales about extinction, though extinction is part of their story. They're demonstrations of life's malleability, evidence that evolution operates on timescales we can actually observe. Foster's rule isn't ancient history. It's happening now, following the same patterns that shaped the hobbits of Flores and the giant eagles of Zealandia. The worlds we've lost show us what isolation creates. The question isn't whether modern isolation will produce evolutionary surprises. It will. The question is whether anything will survive long enough for those surprises to emerge.